Alright, okay, so here we are. Firstly, I'm an evil hacker, iKAT, HACKD.net. This URL has been prohibited. So I was like, bugger, how am I going to hack version 7? So the first thing I did was I went out and I registered iKAT2.ha.ckd.net. And what do you know? It works. You think they would learn the blacklists? Okay, so look again, some installed applications. What do we have available to hack this kiosk? So we've got site kiosks, we've got .NET. Okay, I'm going to go straight for .NET. I'm going to try and see if I can use .NET since it was so wildly successful in the other one. Okay, I'm going to try this exact same approach. Spawn the application executor. Verifying application environments. Application cannot be started. Please contact the application vendor. So I got this error box pops up, and basically none of these tricks in the website actually work. All of them pop up different errors. But I found this one. If you click details, it shows you the details using Notepad. I was like, cool, I got Notepad. Hey, what can I do with Notepad? But what can I do with Notepad? So remember, I can't run cmd.exe because I don't have any access or any permissions to run cmd.exe. I mean, I can do like this. I can try and find an executable. I don't actually have, they've disabled the right mouse altogether in this. So the only way I can get things to spawn is by dragging one binary onto the second binary to spawn it. Actually, sorry, the other way. Right. So, it won't actually let me spawn any of these processes. Then I thought, okay, I'm going to try my fancy, I'll download UTF-7 encoded shellcode, which is in VBScript that'll run and give me some magical form of shell. So I'll download Windows file cmd.vbs and ANSI. Open. It downloads this. I turned every executable into about 5 meg of VBScript. So this is the contents of cmd.exe. And then I thought, okay, I can save this. I'll save this as 1.vbs. And then what I'll do is save it again as 2.vbs. Yeah, and then I go File, Open, Star. And then I'll drag one onto the second so I can spawn the first. Okay. And then it's going to recreate cmd.exe in the current directory, and then it'll spawn it, and I'll get shell, and I win, right? So waiting, there's cmd.exe, permission denied. So Windows has said, hey, you want to run a file that you created, bugger off, you're not going to be able to do this. Native permissions, you don't have access. And I started thinking for a while, it's actually took me about quite a while sitting there thinking, like, oh, how do I beat this? How do I get around this? And then I realized that I actually already won. Even though I can't spawn a process, I can run VBScript. So I started wrecking my brain, what can I do in VBScript that could affect or attack the kiosk and give me access to the underlying operating system? So I came up with this. I call it the Emo Kiosker. It's basically WMI. I'm using a WMI call, which is part of the Windows management instrumentation, to try and terminate a process. And I found a very, very interesting condition when I try and terminate processes on a kiosk. So this time I'll save this as 3.vbs, and again as 4.vbs. I go File, Open, Star, I grab 3, I run it down to 4, executes my VBScript. It says, hey, suspected kiosk process found, site kiosk.exe. Do you want to terminate this? Yes. Tries to terminate the process, and the trick was, come on, please do it. There we go. I'm back to Windows. So what I found was basically if I kill the kiosk process, it tries to respawn the kiosk process because it was killed, and if I kill it while it's in the process of respawning it, I create an unhandled exception in the parent process, which is actually running a system, which is game over. The whole thing crashes, and I'm back to Windows. And of course, this is the only way you can do it because the parent process runs a system, and an underprivileged user can't kill the process, which, greater privileges than itself. So this is the only trick I found that lets me attack site kiosk. The real pain in the ass here is, though, is that even though I'm back to Windows now, I can't actually do anything because I don't have cmd.exe. I don't have access to really browse the file system. You can just leave the kiosk in a broken state. But it's the best I could do, so. Okay, let's pause this one. I'm going to start up the next one. Future tense. Okay. Okay, so after I released iKAT version 1, there was an article in Computer World in New Zealand. Kiwi hacker develops Kiosk Attack Tool. I thought, hey, it's pretty cool. My mum rang me up and said, hey, Paul, you're in the newspaper. And I thought, wow, that's pretty awesome. The week following, there was a kiosk vendor that replied to the newspaper article. And he said, Linux beats Windows for kiosk security. I thought, oh yeah, Mac Jones of Whangarei-based NetStop says public-facing kiosks running Windows-based software are harder to harden. He went on to say, but now most 15-year-olds can pull up information on the internet and hack a Windows computer. Okay, all right. He also said something on the akin that only non-professional people run Windows and that Windows isn't really considered a real or secure environment. And I thought to myself, oh yeah, you want to tell me that Linux can't be hacked. So I instantly changed my direction. I stopped hacking Windows. I said I'm going to hack Linux. I actually started by hacking Mac Jones's kiosks that he himself does. So I thought to myself, Linux has to be hackable. Linux kiosks are based on Mozilla and Firefox. Okay, Linux browsers actually have less functionality than Windows. That's a bit of a problem for kiosks. We don't have things like .NET to play with. We don't have like VBScript. I thought, it took me over a week to break Kiosk 7. Linux should take me months. I tried to hack 8 different Linux kiosks. I hacked all 8 of them. I found multiple root privilege escalation vulnerabilities. I found default unhardened installations. Basically, it was trivial to pop shell and privesc to root. I was expecting more. I thought Linux guys, or Unix guys in general, were actually hardcore. I thought us Windows guys were supposed to be really lame. Yeah, I was quite let down. So the objective is to spawn USR bin xterm. I want a shell to pop up. I want an Windows X11 shell. The first thing I started thinking about was how can I use Firefox to spawn a shell, or spawn a process. Now, if you can access about:config in Firefox, which is the configuration page, this allows you to reconfigure Firefox. So I thought, well, why can't I just configure like an external view source editor to be USR bin xterm? So when I say view source, it'll spawn xterm. Sure enough, that works. You can define an external handler for like a PDF file. Say, look, Firefox, every time I download a PDF file, open it with xterm, and you get shells. You can say, every time I print with xterm, you get shells. Problem was, only one kiosk allowed me direct access to about:config. It's because all the kiosks have a little blacklist of the URLs you're not supposed to access, and about:config is in them. And then I started having a think, and I realized that about:config is actually an alias to its correct URL, which is chrome:// and sure enough, I found if I typed that into a Linux kiosk, their blacklist didn't preempt this, and I get access to about:config, which allows me to then reconfigure it and pop shells quite easy. You can also access about:cache. I found some conditions where the kiosk will block you accessing the config but not the cache. From the cache, you can look at all the previous web requests made through the kiosk, including detailed post information, such as your username and your password that you posted to log on to your bank, or your mail, or something like that. There are 3 different about:cache URLs which you can use. I then started playing around with my own Firefox extension. I thought, man, I wonder if some of these kiosks would let me install an extension. And sure enough, they implement security by user interaction. You get this little pop-up that pops up and says, hey, I prevented this site from trying to install an extension. If you really want this to happen, click here. So, okay, click, it installs. You install my extension, and then you right-click, and you find you get a couple of extra items in your right-click menu. One of these is spawn a binary, spawn an xterm. You also spawn reverse and forward shells. Okay, let's hack some Linux kiosks. Today we're going to be hacking WebConverger and Morphix. These are both the latest versions available. Live CD distributions, they're built on Linux. Both of them, ironically enough, tout their security features. So let's break them.